Pitter
Good.
patter.
All right, guys. Welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast. I'm David Holder. I'm your host, joined by a whole entourage today. And so if I seem like I'm not fully engaged in the podcast, it would be because I'm also playing babysitter, police officer, warden, and referee between two adult dogs and one brand new dog that we have here. So I am joined not only by Warren and Easton today, but also by Christo, by Dan, and Nick is behind the camera. And Legend is our new pride and joy puppy that we're hoping turns into something big someday. Well, we know he's going to turn into something big. I don't know if it's going to be big on the success level or not, but we'll see.
Come here, Legend.
So today, though, we got a pretty cool podcast for you guys. So all of you out there in podcast land that have been listening, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for all the reviews that you guys have been sending. We appreciate it. Thank you guys for checking out the website. The website is, we've noticed an uptick on people buying the new sweatshirt that I'm wearing. Apparently guys like that, or gals like it, because people are buying them. The Easton's got one on. I don't have mine on right now, but the new beanies are in there now.
Yeah.
So there's lots of new apparel, but the Raised Canine stuff, you're going to see us not rebranding it, but actually talking about a little more, because we're seeing more and more people that are needing stuff for their dogs. And we put out a post the other day, 130 comments of people that sent in pictures of their pooches because you guys love your dogs like we love ours. And so with that, we know that you guys are looking for stuff to help them last longer, help them get as much out of life as they can. So check out the Raised Canine line, because I'm telling you, Dan is 9. He's actually almost 10. He'll be 10 in April. And a year ago, I didn't know if he was going to be able to shed hunt with us or not. And now he can go and do it. And I think he's got a couple years still left in him. A little tough on him at night, just doing some tracking now. But other than that, he is good to go. Now, right now, it's like minus 20 wind chill or something. He's got his head curled up on this thing over here. I got 2 others over there chewing on antlers, sheds that they have found. So we're talking about shed hunting today. And they can be, if Nick would pan the camera over there, he would see that they have already found sheds. So that's how you train them. You just lay them around the house and they got to go find them. So
Legend
all right.
found his first shed within a day or two of being.
First day, that was, I mean, we picked him up the day before, but the first day, Easton takes Legend out on my land and walked down my road and everything and ran into my shed and picked
where
up
I put my hay bales.
No, they are our hay
and
bales.
where I planted my field. Freaking lick
whatever. All right, Warren, you got some shout outs we need to do?
I do. William Ayers, SP4TT. He said, awesome buck. Congrats, Simon. Another great episode, guys. And then he said, I can't believe Warren said David was right. Jeremy Rupsick. Warren said David was right. Clearly we've got a bunch of dads in here. They're not used to being right, so I guess I get it. You gotta get it while you can. Iowa Racks and Birds. Great buck. Congrats, Simon. Love the podcast as always. Bucky Doe Downer, Eric Robards, Adam Shrunk, 3620, Connie W. Kirk, 4595.
It's a new one.
Nurse Mike IN, and Tyler Cagle, 1486. Appreciate you guys. Apple people, if you would, keep sending in those reviews. Really appreciate it. And with that, let's get into it.
You guys,
do we ever tell anybody that if you do listen on Spotify and Apple, that if you guys do watch these where you're not at work or something, that if you do watch them on YouTube, we do add some different video and stuff on there. So if you're looking for a little more entertainment, or you don't listen while you're driving, you could watch instead of just listen. I don't think we've ever told anybody that. So I have multiple stories, but I forgot my top secret folder.
What the heck?
Uh-oh.
No top secret folder.
Yeah, I forgot it.
We have
So we'll just have more
one
next
dog
week.
attacking another dog right
Christo,
now.
go to bed.
This is not going
Go
to
to
be
bed.
good. Hey,
Good boy.
there you go. Find an antler and lay down and chew on it. Knucklehead.
He's going nuts right now.
Yeah, I knew this was going to happen. We did not time this correctly. This podcast was supposed to be a couple hours earlier before the puppy's nap time, and instead we're doing it after. And as you can see, this is not good.
Like Legend's saying, I think you picked the perfect time.
Yeah. You guys talk about whatever. I got lots of stuff I can do here. All right, let's talk a little bit about shed tactics, if there are any. I'm to the point now there are none.
You're such a complainer.
I'm just telling you, there are none.
He walks like what?
I don't know.
Twice?
2 miles.
Yeah, 2 days.
Oh, I can't find a shed. I've found it all year. It's just not my year.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm not complaining that I haven't found any, but I don't have any special tactics. There are certain things that I don't like that I find more. I guess that is not true. There is some tactic to it, but it ain't very tough.
I think,
which is what?
Like, I don't like the other day when we were walking with the sun going down and we were walking into the sun. I don't like doing that because I cannot see very well at all. And I don't like sunny days. I prefer cloudy days. I also prefer days after it's rained and the ground's all matted down. That's my preferred days if I had a chance to walk. I don't like windy days because it makes my eyes water. So it's got to be the perfect day or it's not even worth going.
So we're looking for about 3 to 4 mile an hour winds, 50 degrees, cloudy.
I didn't say anything about temperature.
Rained the previous day, and calm.
Christo.
Sure.
Got it. I hope everybody listen to David. That is when the only time you should go shed hunting. I am going to clean your spots.
I think if we recap a little bit on this, because we've done this topic before, I know you have changed some strategies. Goodness gracious. Go to bed, Christo. Stop playing with him because he's just going to keep going. You've had strategies that have changed. Warren's had strategies that have changed, and I have as well. And so one of them would be quantity versus quality, or like how fast you're walking. How do you have to walk a lot, or do you re-walk stuff a lot? How much are we missing? And then I think the other one would be, I guess, time in which you're going, as far as early or not early. What else would I be missing? It's really this year I've been so chill and so laxed about it.
Well, this year, honestly, I would say we're going early too, earlier than normal.
Yeah.
We have one farm that they seem to drop early, but the problem with is that we've discovered in the last couple of years, if we don't go early, it's almost pointless picking them up. Other than maybe we do know who it is, but they're all chewed up. The squirrels get to them so fast.
Yeah, we've been, and every one finding there right now is pretty fresh.
However, I will say this, that it's been probably 5 years ago, 6 maybe, the best whitetail shed hunting day that I ever had was Super Bowl Sunday. So, and that was Mom and I right by the house. We picked up, I think, either 12 or 16, I can't remember, in like an hour and a half. And I was there because someone tipped me off that they had found one of the bucks that I was looking for, one side of his shed. And I was like, dang, he already dropped? So I said, let's go see if we can find the other half. Well, we never found the other half. We just found every other shed. I mean, it was like, there's one over there, there's 2 over there before you could even get to them. It was unbelievable.
Is it a really cold winter?
No.
No.
There was a little snow on the ground, and we were finding them in all the places where there wasn't any snow.
And that was probably when the fields next to your house had
food. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Versus now they're just CRP. The neighbors is.
Well, I remember we had a different place that I shed hunted one time, although it was a really cold winter. And Alyssa and I went on like Valentine's Day, and we found 10 in a 100-yard radius.
Yep.
Just piled in there. But I think that was my theory on that, is because it was so cold.
Yep.
So one of my biggest changes, and this may disagree with people, but is not waiting to go. Now, this depends on the area you're at, because if I have somewhere where I know that deer are hanging out during this time of year, they're bedding there, they've got food there, and they're good, and I don't have to go in there whatsoever, but I don't have to worry about, for instance, squirrels or whatever else. You'll figure it out pretty easily. around us, there's not very many places at all that you could just leave it for a month and then they're not going to get chewed unless it's out in the wide open. But my point is, we used to try to wait as long as you could so we didn't booger
Go pick them all up, basically.
and get them all at once, and you're not pushing the deer around and things like that. And now I'm to the point where I'm like, screw it. With the amount me and him were hunting late season this year and stuff, and I mean, that's late in the year. I mean, late December, if not early January, and we're busting some deer, getting in and out and stuff. And if it ain't like 3-4 hours that they come back, it's the next morning that they're back in their area, including large mature bucks. And so that to me was like, okay, this whole thing about not going in somewhere because you're going to bust them and they're just going to leave and they're going to be totally gone. I think there's probably places that is similar to that, but around us, I don't worry about it anymore. Go get go pick them up. And the other kind of cool part about that I've noticed or paid attention to is by us doing that a little earlier, we might not find 20, 30 in a day, but we can go and we find a couple or a few, whatever it is, or we might find 10 or something, and we can go back the next weekend in the same spot and do the same thing again, and you're probably going to find a couple more, and you get a lot longer out of your shed season, and you get more quality antlers versus burning your spots.
Which I hate doing that. Going back to the same spot.
Oh,
I have a hard time. I feel like this is pointless because I was just here. But then, especially trail cameras help. Knowing that you have trail camera photo of a buck that had antlers, or you see him, when you're walking, and that buck still had antlers, and then you come back a week later, maybe they're laying there.
I was the same way, but now, like this year, for whatever reason, I'm like, it doesn't really bother me.
I don't think. If it wasn't for what those squirrels do to that place, I don't think I would like the idea of going in there all the time.
Oh,
because I do think it's different when in the winter when they're herded up, and you got 50, 60, 70, 100 deer going to a food source, and you're constantly running them out of there. I do think it screws with them quite a bit.
I don't. If you're going in there over and over and over and over again, where you're going to be busting them over and over and over again, then I think you're right. But when you go in on the weekend and you're there for the day or whatever,
but if there's a place where you don't have squirrels ruining them and nobody's trespassing, why? I think there's
why take the chance? Just wait and go pick them all up at once.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying before. That is, if you don't have any reason to, don't go.
I think the place that we have is that one. The squirrels get to them so fast that, I mean, if you wait that long, we've already done that before when they're pretty much destroyed. But I guess the biggest adjustment that I've made this year, I think, has been I used to walk really slow and methodical and not cover quite as much ground, and now I'm walking quite a bit faster, but I'm really zigzagging. Every time I really zigzag, I find the most antlers. So I just try to cut off little chunks, and then I just really work it back, and so I'll walk 50 yards up, 50 yards down, 50 yards up, 50 yards down, 50 yards up, 50 yards down, and then just pick out an area, and then I just grid it.
That is a big thing for people that if you are new to shed hunting or you're trying to get better at shed hunting, you need a plan. Like that is one of the biggest things that if we just aimlessly walk, or we all, especially if you're in a group, where 3 or 4 of you guys are going, you're kind of screwing yourself if everybody just kind of shotgun approaches and goes. You really need to focus on a plan and everybody's going because, number one, that's going to keep everybody in line. Number two, you're going to cover the ground better and you're not going to miss as much stuff. And number three, you're going to be able to go to the next spot and cover. He's playing with your.
He's on my cord, yeah.
That's fun.
I think, and I think that now that we start to talk about this, I have to recant myself. I do think we have some strategies. I think I have more strategies than I realize. One of the things I would say, maybe the biggest.
Yeah, is parking at the wrong gate.
Yeah.
Right next to all the good stuff.
What?
That's his strategy.
Oh, yeah. He wanted to get closer to where we were going, too.
Yeah.
Guarantee it. And you know what? It paid off.
Yeah, I'm going to meet you there.
What are you talking about?
Last weekend, you asked us specifically where you wanted to. You were going to drive the truck to park it in central location. So
I parked it right in the middle.
No, so we can get done no matter where we end up,
Right.
we're all going to be able to get right to the truck nice and easy. You specifically asked me, so you want me to pull to the second gate and just pull right in there? And I specifically said, no, I don't want you to go there. I want you to go to the first road and turn left, go down in the bottom. And what did David do? He went to the second gate because it was closer to the place we were trying to get to go find our boy RJ. And he hides it. And
I disagree. All I walked was the little sliver that we drove both sides. So in case we missed something that we couldn't see from driving by, and you guys were down there.
The best sliver. I came up to you and I said, "Is that what you understood?" And what'd you say?
I said no.
No.
I
And
told
said,
him the exact opposite.
So you're the only one that was like,
I don't know.
completely.
I have no clue.
Oh, he knows. He knows.
But it worked out because he didn't find anything.
It's true. See,
Karma.
The shed gods.
Instant karma.
So what I was saying,
You'd be a good CIA
the
agent.
number one difference in shed hunting now, the number one tool I think that is helping shed hunters now is OnX. I think the addition to OnX, I think, is
Go to bed.
high percentage better because it tells you where you've been. And so that you don't end up walking, and it tells you where you've been, so I don't walk those areas. When I was
tracking.
yes, I turning on the tracking and then going. When I've been looking for a specific antler like Blade a couple years ago, I was able to see that I have covered this farm 100%. It was a blue or whatever aqua color that the track is, the whole farm. But halfway into looking for that shed, I found, I got a spot there. I ain't looked. So I went back over and took me right there, and I walked through it.
Yep.
Yeah. That is a big one because you can also plan it out when we're all sitting there looking at the truck or whatever.
And then if you're organized like yourself, where you take and have folders, I mean, I don't know if you do it for sheds, but I know you're like, you can say, okay, found so-and-so shed here. Oh, yeah, look at that. I found his shed 50 yards or 100 yards from there last year. All of a sudden, you got 3 years worth of, dang, he is shedding right in here.
Yeah.
You know, and things like that. So there are things that wasn't a thing years ago. You just walked. You didn't have any, or you could carry a GPS, you know, but then you had to carry it, and then you'd have to go do something with it. You could download it to your computer. It's a lot more work. Right now it's in the palm of your hand.
Oh yeah.
So let's go over some interesting things. Let's go to your miles equal piles.
Yeah,
theory.
so I brought that up because I seriously think it was 2023 that we did our last like actual in-depth shed tactics podcast, and our thing on that was miles don't equal piles. And point is, we were expressing our opinion on the fact that you don't necessarily need to walk tons and tons and tons to find antlers, but you do. It would be better to walk specific areas and cover them more thoroughly versus miles. I am no longer of opinion of that because I've tried, like especially last year, we went into the season with me and you specifically. We'd talk about it like today we're going to a spot where we know there's some sheds, and we're going to try to walk quicker and see if we feel as though we're missing them, or one of us will go back and check it again to see if walking faster, slower, zigzags, not zigzags, and things like that would help or not help. And the more I've been paying attention to the different strategies we're trying every time we're going, these freaking lint lickers, no matter how, I mean, you definitely find them in, like you always say, in areas. Like a lot of times when you find one or two, there's a good chance you're going to find quite a few in that spot because they're congregated. But the freaking things are way more random than what I think we give them credit for. As far as I try to walk trails, I try to walk like north or south facing slopes. Now that I say that one out loud, that is the one that is, I think, the most valid out of all of the theories.
South
facing slopes versus north facing. Now I hate north facing slopes. But anyways, so doing different things like that, I now am like, you just need to cover ground. But at the same time, I have the mindset, like this year, I'm probably going to walk stuff again that we've already walked, just in case. But if I go too slow, I think I strain too much. Like I'm straining my eyes too much. I get distracted by different things. versus just going.
I think I've disproved that to myself now. And I think I think it needs to be qualified as far as like what you're talking about as far as just walking. Cuz I thought that would be true. And so I went out and got an absurd amount of permission ground several years ago. Like an insane amount. I sent out over 100 letters. Like I was convinced I was going to be able to walk enough to find an 80.
Yep.
And I tracked every single track and then all of the miles. And I can't remember if it was 200 miles.
You did over 200.
Or like 300. It was like between 200 to 300 miles that I'd walked. And I found 74 antlers out of those 200 miles.
That's awful.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Now, if you take our stuff, meaning anything that's just exclusively to us, nobody else can walk it. So I think I was averaging, well, I guess you could just do, so I was averaging what, a little bit over an antler every 2-something miles.
Yeah. 2.25 miles.
Yes, where I have some of ours where I'm averaging 3-4 antlers a mile.
Yeah.
So the competition makes a huge difference. And the quality of whatever it is that you're on. And two, because that's the thing there is I may have been better off bouncing around to all of those places. One, I had enough that I couldn't get to all of it. It wasn't even possible for me to get to all of it. But I was also convinced if I covered every inch of everything that I felt was good, or meaning like just any property at all, I'm going to stumble upon one. That I was going to do so many miles that it was not practical for me to not find a tank of an antler. And that just wasn't true. I did find a 72 inch antler, which is a pretty good antler. But it was also, I found like 3 other antlers in that spot, so I wouldn't say that was really a random spot.
Yeah.
So I'd look back at it now, and I wasted a ton of miles in pasture and stuff like that. That was completely pointless. And then that I think that 80% of those antlers are on 10% of the properties typically.
So
I want to clarify that.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what I'm getting ready to do. What is the one place, if I turned you loose on any particular farm, what's the one thing you would like? Would it be a fence line? Would it be a crossing area? Would it be the corn? Would it be the beans? Would it be the pasture? Would it be the edges of the field? Would it be the high grass? Would it be CRP? What's one thing that you go, oh, right there's where I'm going, because I think I'm going to find a shed there?
South-facing slope with like hedge apple thickets and warm grasses or cedars.
Okay.
That every time I'm like, I'm gonna find an antler in there on the edge of food.
See, what's yours?
Well, I agree with a lot of those. The one thing I've been trying to, it's hard for me to do it, but setting myself up for success, and that is like as much as I want to walk through timber where I know it's a south-facing or whatever, there's great bedding in there, I'll walk it 100% because I know there's deer there and everything. But I've now been like, okay, you always, whenever you're walking looking for sheds, you always end up with the Y situation where you go left or you go right, like, or you're going to go left and you're going to circle for a little bit, then you'll come back to the right.
Can you get that from it?
Or you get distracted or whatever. Now I decide which one is easier for me to see, not about which one do I think is better. I go to which one is easier for me to see because I feel like I'm missing antlers anyways. I might as well go to the spot where I think they may both be, but I'm going to go to the spot I can see them in. For example, like if anybody saw one of the videos we posted where Warren thought he found a match set and ended up being 2 different deer right next to each other, that's what convinced me right there. We had been walking through all kinds of timber. I guarantee we walked by some antlers. And over the moment we get to the spot where there's not timber, and it's not all this leaf coverage and the shrubs and everything else and thick timber, we get to barely an open patch of timber. What'd you find in that little thing? 4? 3 or 4? You found 2 right there. You walked a little further and found another one.
100 yards of each other right there.
Yeah. And so right there I was like, screw it. Like, I will walk them, but I'm not going to take a ton of time walking the timber. So I look for the spot that's easier for me to visibly see it.
Okay. You had one of, and I agree, hedge apple thickets seemed like they hold antlers for whatever reason. That day that Mom and I found all those, that's what that was in. But my favorite, because I think it's more prevalent, that is hard to find. You don't find those on lots of farms. The one that I feel like is my go-to, and probably every farm I go to, I want to walk the edge. I want to walk the edge of the field, and it's the warm grass is what you refer to them. I call it yellow grass. And just so people will understand what I'm talking, we're not talking about like grass like in your yard that's 3-4 inches tall. We're talking about stuff that's 10, 12, 16 inches tall. And for whatever reason, those bucks must lay in there or walk through there a ton, because those edges with that grass, I probably find 50% of my antlers. And the only reason I find the 50% everywhere else is because I walk enough. But I find the biggest majority along there.
Yeah.
And maybe the other one is because I feel so confident that I'm going to find them there. So that's kind of where I start, is the edges of, and that can be an edge. Typically, I'm talking edge of a crop field going to timber, and there's usually some type of warm grasses along that. But edges of CRP can be like the same way. And granted, you might be right. Maybe there's just as many in the CRP, but I can't find them because it's 8 feet tall. I got to stumble on it.
Well, that's why I keep asking you that about burning. I don't care if I need a lot of our CRP is in great health condition now. I don't care about that anymore. We've gotten it to that. I want to burn the grass to find antlers because I know they're in it.
But the whole
I want
thing
to burn
is,
everything. I'm like, let's do it. I'm ready.
As many times as we have burned the CRP that we take care of some other people's properties, we found very, very few antlers.
It depends on the location you're at. Like the one you're referring to, where we killed all our deer this year.
Right.
I don't expect to find a ton there because a lot of them are moving out of that.
Yeah,
for
there's no food
source.
no big food source.
Right next to your house, though, when there is freaking 2-3 foot wide highways every 10 yards, I want to burn every ounce of that sucker because we need to make the grass better. And I guarantee there's going to be some antlers in there, too. That's where I found Blade's match set.
Yeah, but we've burned it, and that's the only ones we found.
Well, that's because you guys didn't have me. That was the only time I ever burned it.
Whatever.
There's 2 antlers in there.
Yeah, see? Point proven.
I got you, Christo.
I think my expectation, though, as far as the distance, I'm not talking nutcase-wise. I'm not talking about being a freaking psychotic person who wants to go shed hunt and pull a Forrest Gump on us, okay? That's not what I'm looking for.
200 miles ain't that crazy.
It's crazy. That is 100% crazy. If you guys don't agree, let me know in the comments or whatever, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to say you're a nutcase for walking 200 miles in a year to find an 80-inch shed. But anyways, my thing is
I didn't.
not necessarily like walking tons and tons of miles. I'm saying walk, like cover ground. Don't sit there and try to freaking like go super slow, super methodical. Like, yeah, I'll go back and forth, zigzag and everything, covering it pretty good, but I'm cruising. I'm going versus slowly moving through stuff. So point is, I'm covering ground, not necessarily doing the quality thing like we had previously talked about. Maybe I'm missing stuff, but I haven't been way behind anybody this year on the 2 times we have gone. So as long as I'm not like at a 0 and everybody else has found like 5, I'm good.
Yeah.
I definitely think that Waylon is one, and then there's another guy that that also I've walked with them and they walk fast, and I've said that before. There's like 2 methods: walking fast and covering lots of ground, or walk slow and don't miss anything. I don't know how many forked horns Waylon picks up, spikes, things like that, because I think he's going fast enough that he's not going to see them. However, it's not that big a deal if you don't find them either, really, I guess. Unless you're looking for as many as you can find. So anyhow,
you need to chill out. We need to give you a canine calming chew. Maybe we should do that. Get you
I
stoned.
say that, but I do it every time I walk slow. I get in there and then I'm like, okay, this looks like a good spot. And what kills me is I absolutely hate, the worst place to look for an antler is in a cornfield. It sucks. I just can't stand it, but I do it. I walk over one row and I look down the row, and then I go to the next row and I look down the row, and I'm like, because I know there's got to be one out there. We found an antler that was 2 years old this year during hunting season in a cornfield. That was laying there.
In my opinion, though, unless you're going to walk the whole freaking thing, you might as well leave it.
Yeah.
unless you end up seeing it. Or if you have a four-wheeler or something that's possible, that's a lot better. It's still tough, though, because even on the four-wheeler and stuff, if you're driving on the four-wheeler, then you're trying to drive, and you're also trying to look, and you're trying to go slow. If you're in the mule or something, like me and Warren will stand in the bed of the mule looking for stuff, but it's still tough, in my opinion, doing those wide open fields like that.
Yep.
So one of the other things that you have been driving me nuts with this year is when you zigzag. We're talking so strategy-wise, so that you guys understand. If you don't understand, we will pick out. We don't like go out a whole farm and try to figure it out. We'll pick out a chunk of timber or a specific bedding area or somewhere where we had bales near it or whatever else. We'll figure it out, and then we determine us three are going to go this way. And for instance, if we're on a sloped hill, when we have three of us, one of us takes the middle, one of us takes the top, one of us takes the bottom, and we're all kind of working back and forth towards and away from each other, going all the way through it. And so I guess so you guys understand that is my point. In my opinion, it's a heck of a lot easier, and you'll go a lot longer if you go horizontally with the hill. Go back and forth horizontally on the hill versus jackwagging over here. Every time that me and him have paired up and we're doing something, he's zigzagging everything, and then I'm stuck having to go up and down the hill, up and down the hill. And it would be 10 times easier if you just side hill it, back and forth, back and forth. You go 10 times longer, you go faster, you don't have to go up and down the freaking hills. I don't know what logic.
Like they're that big.
When you're doing it all day, it's not difficult whatsoever, but it would be a breeze. It is a breeze. That's why I always walk them that way. Because you always, if you go with the hill, you're side hilling it. You're never going up or down. It's not hard. And you crank through stuff. Why make it harder if you don't need to?
Because there's hardly even a hill.
It's just pointless to go up and down, up and down.
No, because then you're going backwards going that way. I'm going forward. I'm going forward, up, down, up, down, up, down.
You can do it either way. I'm just giving you guys some advice, especially if you do get to some areas where it is steeper hills or whatever else you're hunting.
So hold on.
Go with the hill, not
okay,
up
so
and down
let me
the hill.
ask you this, though. Do you think you find more antlers walking down a hill or walking up a hill?
Up.
Down.
Really? I think up.
Well, down because I can look down.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
see, when
up,
I'm walking up, I
silhouette 'em.
can see them. Yeah, I can see I can see them laying on the ground possibly.
That's why I love that swamp
find
road.
way more from above.
I
down.
like walking that sucker because I'm walking the road where they all like to walk. I like the grass patch of road or whatever, and then I'm looking up and they stick out like a sore thumb. That's how I found found the one the other day, and then the other one was I was walking even with it.
Yeah. I know for next year I'm adjusting my strategy for an 80.
You got to find an 80.
Yep. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to find one that's already on his head and have pictures of him and try and track him like all these other guys do.
Yeah.
Which really sucks because I was hoping that you could just go to a random place, and get to walk up on it.
We can go back to Alabama.
Which I'm sure I could at some point, but I don't know how many years or miles that's going to take to do that.
Well, I mean, and just for people's reference, I mean, an 80-inch shed is big.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking not a 170-inch deer. We're talking mid 170s at a minimum.
Or
I mean,
it could be 170. It's just the one side.
Possibly. But
It's
typically,
clearly harder to find an 80 than it is to kill one with an 80 on his head.
yeah, we have several that we have killed, but we have yet to find. And
You guys have several that you have killed.
yeah, but I mean, but it is crazy to think that we have 10 between us, something like that, 10 booners, and not one 80-inch shed found between any of us in the family, including camera guys that walk with us, friends that have walked with us. No one. We've not picked up an 80-inch shed.
But we have had picked up sheds where the other side was 80.
Yes,
And
but
that we got like the 76 or something like that.
76 has been our number. I think 76 is the biggest we've ever picked up, isn't it?
Yep.
As far as
last year, wasn't it?
Oh, multiple times. Junior
You-
was
You
76.
never broke 76?
No, it gets to it every time.
It's kind of like your guys' 172 curse.
Yeah, there for a while it was 172, 172, but 76 seems to be the magic number. I can get there, but I cannot. Like Blade was 76, but we knew his other side was probably 10 inches bigger. So it wasn't like whether it would be 80, it was going to be well over probably, but never found it.
Well, Bullwinkle set the year the one year we didn't find any of them were both 80. And then the one year, the other one, we got the 70, whatever it was, and the other side was probably 90.
That's unreal.
Yep. Just dumb luck
All right,
when it
so
comes to that.
well, what other? I mean, if we could summarize this for them, I mean, I'm sure we obviously have more, but so far I'd be telling you got to have a plan to go in, and I will say this too: go with somebody else. Oh my gosh, I think it's daunting when you go alone, especially if you have a decent chunk of timber. You're probably not gonna be able to cover it all. I mean, unless you go multiple times, because it takes you so long as one person. So go with a buddy, go with a couple buddies or something, but be strategic in the way you guys are out walking. If you don't have OnX, that would be a very smart one to get for tracking, because when we all get back, if we have been separated, we can see where everybody's walked. You're not wasting your time. What else?
Food.
Obviously, you got to find where the deer are.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, shed hunting, there's some scouting that needs to go in to where you're going to go.
Yeah.
You know, because places that you hunted all season, there may not be a single deer in that area. If that's assuming that you live in a place where winter comes, where it's, you know, a major winter, because like this storm we're getting right now could move some of our deer, for sure.
Oh yeah, they could all pile up pretty easily.
But I see, again, like I said, I walk edges. Another one I love is fences. I don't know why. I find some sheds. I don't find a lot, but I always find them about the same distance from the fence. Junior was, I feel like, a shed crossing deer. That's why I found that, because it was the typical. When I say walk a fence, do not look within 10 feet of the fence. They aren't going to be there typically. They're going to be like 7 or 8 yards. The deer jumps the fence. The perfect example is KB. The way KB lands when he came through that time Mom almost got a shot at him, lands, and then the antler lands out that far. And that was something I didn't realize for a while. And then all of a sudden one day I was like, okay, maybe because I was walking, the fence is right there and I'm right here, and I'm, you know, but then I'm finding them all over on this side, not next to the fence, but that's where they came over. You could see a clear trail or something like that. So that's another one that I still, it makes sense to me, and I find them that way.
Natural edges and fences. I mean, lines where you can. I would agree with that. And
Waterways.
Trails. Yeah, waterways are good in your fields. Trails are typically pretty good. But that's what I'm saying too. Like the big one I found the other day was not. He was not on a trail.
It was just in the timber.
Yeah, I'm like, you little freaking turd. I'm walking all these trails perfectly, and it's 15 yards away from any trail, and you just happen to drop it right there or something. So you got to pay attention. But what about? I know you do it. I don't, because I forget. But as far as what you're looking for, like you just looking for an antler? You looking for a tine? You looking for white? You looking for brown? What are you looking for to try to get it to pop?
I'm looking for anything that's abnormally straight, which works if their tine's up. If their tine's down, it doesn't help you.
You're screwed.
But usually there still is enough of a unique shape to the beam and everything that you can kind of tell. And it seems like the majority of them that I find are tines up.
Yeah.
So I look for oddly straight things, because it's not very often that you see, 3 or 4 tines that are as straight as, or sticks that are as straight as tines.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of beans.
Yeah.
I see a lot of beans.
All the freaking time.
Not beans, but the bean stuff left, stubble.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, oh, there's one. Then I put the binoculars on it, and it's another bean stalk.
Yeah.
That's the only place that I see the straight. I think I probably look color. I'm looking for something that's slightly white, and I think maybe that could be another reason. I bet you if I was to go back and look, although we didn't look much this early, we went some, but we go more later on, and then they're more bleached, and so they stick out more, and I think they're easier to find at that point. But some of them are just like, there's no way you could miss this. If you walked within 20 yards of it, you would see this.
And there's other ones you walk 2 yards away, and you're like, what the heck?
I can't tell people.
Nick roasted me on one last year. I think I walked within 7 or 8 yards when we ended up looking at the track, and Nick walked right by it. And
I remember
there's an antler here. I'm like, oh. And then Warren, of course, had to air out my track. So sometimes you want to be careful if you are tracking yourself or not. If you have some benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah, because this isn't like
plausible deniability.
This was on this was on the same day, so it isn't like he walked through. Like the other day when we went, just Sunday, was it Sunday? Yeah. You could have walked somewhere that we walked the week before and found one and said, "Oh man, you missed this." Maybe not. Maybe it fell, but this one was the same day, so he couldn't say. He walked by and then Nick walked by and found it.
I think I don't know if I've ever actually had it help me find sheds, but a lot of you guys will probably get it. I don't know if you've posted it yet or not, but our video of me tossing the antler.
No, I
you need to send it to Nick so he can post
Okay.
it. But a lot of guys will take an antler, and this is actually I seriously think it's a good tip because it kind of gets you in the mode to look and what to look for.
Trained your eyes.
Just take an antler, and hopefully you have one. If you don't have one yet, well, you got to go find one. So, but you're SOL. But take an antler when you get out of the truck and just turn around and chuck that sucker. Now, don't chuck it too far. Just enough, like maybe get it right in the edge of the timber and toss it behind you or something. And Warren was joking that you gotta close your ears too, or you cover your ears right when you throw it so you can't hear where it falls. And turn around and try to find it. You're probably gonna find it, I would hope. But that gets you in the mode of, okay, now I've found one, because it sure seems like after you find one, you break the seal for the day.
Yep.
You start finding a couple more, and it's quite a bit easier, and they stick out to you more.
Was it me and you that did that, and
you
then took like 20 minutes to find it? I threw it in the cornfield.
I think so.
I was so pissed. I was like, well, here we are again, because there's an edge, and I wanted to walk the edge, but I'm in the corn. And so I had an antler in my hand, and I was like, all right, I'm going to figure this out. So I turned around, and I tossed it over my shoulder, and I didn't throw it that far. I mean, maybe 10 yards. And then two of us were looking. The first 2 minutes, it's like, oh, we're just stupid, because we know it's right. Now 4 or 5 minutes goes by. Okay, what the frick? And then 10 minutes, and it's like, okay, now we got to grid search this to find the antler that I threw. And then finally we find it. And but I should have taken a picture of it because it landed against the corn stalk was about that tall, and it was up against that like that. So until you got right even with it, you could look down the row and you'd never see it. And I was like, what are the freaking chances? But if there's an antler laying out there like that, that's how hard it's going to be to find it. But the worst one for me, still to this day, was you found it. I think he was standing there when you found it, but maybe he wasn't.
Yeah, he was.
Was right next to the house or on the next door neighbors.
Talking about the 9?
The one that's on the TV.
Yeah, I didn't think I was with you guys.
I don't think he was standing there.
There's 3 or 4 of you guys.
There's pictures.
Yes, but he wasn't standing there with us.
Yes,
I think it was just you and I. Well, I just know that we were having a conversation, and I am talking to them, or to Warren. I remember talking to Warren, because then when we decided which way we were going to go, he took a step. I mean, literally one step, and he says, right there. And I'm like, what? And I'm expecting a small antler. Well, it's a freaking 70-inch antler, or 68-inch antler, something like that.
Over 70.
And it's laying right in a field, and we had been there for 10 minutes and hadn't seen it. And I'm like, okay, now I'm worried. Now the other day, I have yet to find a brown antler. Now, Cheater here, my dog, keeps cutting me off. He's taking both fork and horns.
You let him have that.
No,
he's
the one
never found
the one
two
he
in a
found
year.
the other day too.
I don't know where it came from.
None of us were finding.
No.
I think he dug it out of that.
I'm not gonna lie.
The same way with the second one.
I don't know if Christo covered it, because Christo was wiping his paws right there. So I don't know if Christo had covered it and Dan was like still trying to get at it, or if Dan just happened to look in a pile of bean stubble.
Well, the second
literally
one,
and pulled out.
The second one, he just came through that tall grass where the bales are down there, and I heard him chomp. I heard the sound of an antler in his mouth, and I was like, "Do you have something?" I look over, and he doesn't, and I'm like, "Dan, did you just drop an antler?" And he stands there looking at me. He hadn't moved yet, so I knew exactly where he was. So I walked right over there, and it was laying right between his feet.
I seriously think that is Dan's issue.
Well,
he doesn't like carrying them.
I think that he finds more than we know about, and doesn't care to bring them back. I don't even think he doesn't care to bring them back. I don't think he cares to pick them up, because the ones he brings back
are small,
are always fork and horns.
Yeah, that is true.
And I know that sucker has had to have run into some decent sheds at some point or another.
Yeah, the biggest he's found is like a 80-inch or 100-inch deer. Once like because the one that I have written, because that was the first one he truly brought back. Like I didn't know where it was, and here he came. However, when I walked up a little farther, I found a really big one, and I don't know if he was right near it. So anyhow, yeah,
we need to put a camera on him, and then review the footage.
Yeah.
Just kind of scrub through it, see if he ever
see
does
if he's
anything,
walking up on antlers that we ain't picking up.
I bet he does.
Good.
Just a
Little turd.
Yeah.
It's okay because he makes up for it in blood tracking.
But where I was going with that was, here I haven't found a brown antler yet this year, but I found 3 pieces that are dinky, broken. Like, how did I find that? And
You want me to tell you why?
Sure.
Because Warren's left him there for the past 3 years.
No.
He found one of them.
Not the green one the other day.
No, but one of the ones that was.
No, but what I'm saying is I still saw it there.
Yeah.
So if I saw that, why wouldn't I see a brown one?
You just haven't walked by the right spot, apparently.
Who knows? I didn't find a whole bunch last year. The only thing was the ones I did find were big.
You also are getting old.
I don't doubt that.
Can't forget about that. Maybe we need to get some tincture for you.
Maybe. So what else? What other tips do we have?
I think that's it.
Like I said, I do not. I mean, I would add that I do not like to walk into the sun. That is a tough.
I would say out of all of them, though, wind is tough if it's blowing in your eyes because you're in your water. And I will have to maybe do a video with you guys or do a video for you guys because I've heard the theories. I think it's kind of crap, but I'm going to test it. I'm going at night. I might plant some for myself in a spot because they say like with a really good headlamp or something, they pop out. I mean, you don't get to cover as much ground, but they will pop like no other.
But I don't believe that planting it, because planting it, it's there.
Or have someone else put it out there or
yeah.
something. That's all I'm saying. So I know that there is some there, and it's not just a hoax. But I could go out and see if they actually do show up that much better.
Where we tried that. Someone told me the same thing in a cornfield. That's the way you check a cornfield: is you go at night with good headlights or a flat or like a spotlight. And I tried with just the mule lights, turned the lights on it, and I didn't find any. I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but there wasn't any in the field I was in. It does appear like they would show up better.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I'm going to have to try it.
Other than that, I don't have a clue.
We have been finding some around our alfalfa bales.
Yes.
That's been successful.
Yep. That does work for sure.
I got a new tip I'm going to have to do for you guys, too. About driving trails to find sheds.
Are you going to talk about doing that, or are you not going to?
This is a theory. Well, it's not a theory. We haven't tried it yet. One of our good buddies has, who is a reliable source, I will say. And he called me today. He said, hey, I got a video you should go do. And his plan is, or he accidentally did it. And if you guys hear grunting noise, that is the puppy snoring. He accidentally did it a couple years ago where he was driving into some of his stuff when there was snow on the ground this time of year. And like a couple weeks later, he came back, and there was no trails or nothing in any of the snow except for where he had driven. And then he's like, "What? Okay, well, that makes sense." And then he was finding sheds in that trail. So ever since then, he does it. So he drives from like where his food source is, or because he feeds too during the winter, and he'll drive from that to make a couple trails to bedding areas. He does it every year, and he says that it is ridiculous that they will all hammer those for trails, and he will find multiple sheds on it almost every year.
I can see where that would make sense. All right, well, let me throw out a question, though, just because I'd like to know your guys' thought or answer to this. How is it, then, that we know guys that find giant sheds every year? What are they just looking for the right deer, meaning they know where a deer that has that type of shed?
I don't know very many.
I know of 2 or 3.
The ones I know that don't own a ton of land are ones that are literally tracking these freaking things.
That's what I'm saying.
They're watching them every day, and I don't know how they even have time to do that, to see when they're dropping and stuff, or how they find them. But I'd say there's 2 people that do that. The one that does that, and the other one is somebody who has enough land that they hold deer. They hold a significant amount of deer. And so they can go in there every year and pick up the big sheds.
Yeah.
And that's my thought on it.
Do we know anyone that like walks public land and finds a big shed year after year?
Not in a park?
Not in a park. I guess not in a park. Yeah.
Then no, I don't. Yeah, state parks. Yeah, and that's what his buddy does all the time,
State parks.
or near them, like in cities and state parks and stuff.
There's a lot of people that do that.
Yeah.
I think you can find them on public too, but you need to be able to walk every day during the week when nobody else can go and everything else.
Yeah,
You have to know where they are.
Yeah, you got to know they exist.
Yep.
All right.
That's interesting.
Yep. So have strategy. This is for your recap. Have strategy.
The worst
Probably
case,
go with a team.
the worst case scenario, if
I
you
was trying to give them a very summarized.
Okay, you go
strategy
ahead.
Here, but no,
Then,
you can go
no, you
because
go
I'm
ahead.
going to end it.
go ahead, I'm going to end it.
Okay. For you guys, let me try to help you here again. What we have covered here, very simply, strategy with your team. Go with a couple different guys. That makes it easier. Now, I will warn you on that. Be selective in who you choose to bring with you.
What are you looking at me for?
Because we joke about it as far as, like, sometimes we take somebody else and you just know that you're going to have to rewalk it, including myself sometimes. But, like, sometimes you just bring somebody and you're like, yeah, this is not helping team-wise. This is just there are people that are better than others. And I think it's kind of natural. But anyways, so have a team, cover your ground with a strategy, and do it however you're going to. Track yourself if you have the ability to, so you guys can compare and contrast. What else am I missing?
Take a shed dog.
Get out there and take a shed dog if it actually retrieves them.
Nope. You don't need them to retrieve anything. Take your shed dog and you will walk more. Just because
That's fair. It does get them out.
It
That's
gets them
probably
out,
true,
and
actually.
you'll go. I go shed hunting lots of days, not because I think Dan is going to find a giant shed, because I know he's going to enjoy it, and I will too, and so we go.
Having Christo has dictated a lot of the things I do more often
Yep.
because I can bring him with me doing different things.
So get a shed dog, and you'll put more miles in.
And okay, so you have those three, and then just make sure you're walking places with deer and travel corridors, bedding, feed, or where they're feeding at, and trails, things like that, where they're going to and from, wherever they're spending the most amount of their time that you can possibly find, and spend your time there. If you get snow, like right now, for instance, here in Iowa, we now have like 8 inches on the ground or something,
Yeah.
and it's still snowing. By the time this is done, I will, or whenever we get some of this to go away, south-facing slopes I will 100% be hammering, because they will be. It's a thing. I don't think it's no longer a myth, but
Could you go a couple days after snow like this?
yeah, you can go after snow if you want, but good luck. And I will say this though, I know some people that have done it if you can time it right, where you get like this kind of snow, and if you get that crusty top, where it's
Then they
melted
lay
a
on
little
top
bit.
of it.
If deer are still cruising through there and stuff, sometimes they freaking sit
that's
right on
what-
top. But otherwise,
Yeah,
good luck trying to find them in the snow.
That was what I was going to say to answer. Nick asked the question. I don't know if people could hear him or not, but like, could you go after a snow? Depends on the snow. Like what Easton said, if it's a heavy, wet snow and it freezes, then possibly, but the snow that we're getting right now is light and fluffy. I mean, unless it's a 90-inch shed, there ain't a tine going to be sticking up out of the ground.
But if it is, you're going to see it really easy.
But you found the Goofy 8 that day. And
Because I ran the freaking thing over.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it was like very tough to see. So, no, but this is when the antlers will pile up, because now we won't. They're talking the next 12 days. We're not going to be above freezing, so this snow is going to stay. So when that snow leaves, they've had a couple weeks to drop antlers at the prime time.
Yep.
You'll probably go out and find an antler.
So,
All right, Warren, you gonna lay a wacky fact on us?
I'm ready.
Button man, you ready?
kinda.
Let me help you.
You need me to do it?
Oh, it's on already. U.S. retirement papers are kept in a limestone mine. It is said more than 700 employees are working 230 feet underground to process about 10,000 federal employee retirement applications a month, adding that the process could take several months. So this is compliments of Mr. Elon Musk, which I was listening to this morning. As you got to be me.
What? Listen to what?
The update on Dodge, which is his Department of Government Efficiency
Where does he do that at?
the White House.
No crap, ding dong. I'm talking about like where can you listen to this?
It was on Fox, I think.
Oh,
It
you were watching news?
was on YouTube.
Okay,
And so just
that's
came
what
up
I
on-
was trying to get to. Like, where could I find this?
Well, it was whatever that channel was. And so, like, they're trying to, obviously, him and Trump are, they're finding that it looks like about $500 million or not $500 million in fraud
Mm-hmm.
on all this stuff. But then they aren't able to fire more than 10,000 people a month or to help them get into retirement because they can't process enough of the papers fast enough. And they move the documents down the mine from a freaking elevator.
Why? Why are they got to go
This
to
thing
mine?
was made in 1955 or 1950, and our government is so inefficient, that's still what they're using. So Elon is like, this is absolutely asinine.
It's like you're mining for papers. What is the
There's
point?
government workers 250 feet underground doing retirement papers in a day of age where we have AI.
It's concerning. Give you that.
Yeah. So I thought that one was actually quite interesting.
I'm not surprised, I guess, though. I'm more perplexed, even back then. What was their goal? Like, maybe so those they knew those documents would never burn up or something?
I'm going to guess
or weather.
I'm going to guess storage is probably somewhat of a issue with that many.
You're going to run into all kinds of storage when you put yourself underground and you can only go so far.
I don't know. Let's see.
That's concerning that our government came up with that. Seems like a lot of holes in that one.
There's that awkward.
I was going to break the awkward silence.
Not with a burp. That's disgusting. Someone's driving down the road right now, and they are very irritated
They're
that
laughing,
you just.
too.
No, they're not.
They're
like,
laughing because they don't have to smell it.
A Japanese company granted non-smoking employees 6 extra vacation days to compensate for the time smokers took on cigarette breaks.
That's awesome.
I agree. That should be a double green.
That is freaking awesome. I think you've said that one before. I've heard that one before.
I don't think so.
That is freaking funny. It's a good way to
Mercedes-Benz is
encourage them not to,
developing
too.
a solar paint that can generate electricity for EVs. This ultra-thin photovoltaic coating could cover an entire vehicle, potentially adding up to 7,456 miles of driving range per year in ideal conditions. This innovation...
Oh, per year?
Yeah, I
Come
was going
on.
to say per
We-
day.
I was gonna
This
say, we
innovation
talked
could
about this.
reduce or even eliminate the need for daily charging in sunny regions.
Yeah, that would be nice. But
We talked about that already, by the way. When we talked about somehow we got on the whole Trump vehicle or not Trump, Elon's truck and or solar, that all these electric cars and why they didn't have something that could get better. And we discussed the paint.
Oh, this one's really interesting. A student wore the same pair of jeans 330 times over 15 months without washing them. After finally washing them, he wore them for another 13 days. A textile scientist tested the jeans both before and after washing and found little difference in bacterial count.
So I can be wearing my pants longer than 2 days.
For sure.
I'm going to save so much water.
Maybe not. Maybe not with your rear
Well, it all
end,
depends.
but-
We're talking about it. This kid probably got up and walked over to his computer, sat down, played his games all day, walked back over and ate breakfast.
Maybe.
Lunch.
Who knows?
Depends on what you
Right.
do. What depends on what you do in your pants.
Yeah, it does.
And we should end with that.
Yeah,
we
we
don't need to be
should.
knowing what everybody's doing in their pants.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Again, don't forget to go to the Raised Hunting website. Check out the Raised Canine, the Knox, the Sense. I know it's not that season right now, but the other stuff is in season. So get what you need. And this is David Holder and the Holder family and the Raised Hunting team signing off. Appreciate you guys.
You didn't wink with me, mister.